In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The inside joke with that, Connor, is that we were pretending that this was Wayne's World, and
you're still counting.
Yes,
you're still counting. Don't nod your head either.
Oh shit, I'm totally doing that. Anyway, hello Internet, and welcome inside the VinnyMac's 9 Radio Show podcast, the most radioactive show on the planet. I am the one and only DJ Vince VinnyMac, coming to you live from spectacular Arlington, Texas, right outside of Dallas, Texas.
Woohoo!
We're back again here at Connor Jennings, aka Tenwug.
That's me.
We're here at his place for the time being until we head down to PAX South in just a little bit in San Antonio, Texas.
Yep.
The Game Chumps are going to be in full force doing what they do, and that's just being awesome. Spreading the video game culture in all of its awesomeness.
That's what we do.
And I'm also joined with our newcomer to the Game Chumps crew. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Well, I mean, Dan, a.k.a. Yoshi Blade. Wait, I just did introduce myself, didn't I? Well, that's me. Yeah, hi. What's up?
Hi.
Wow, a lot of enthusiasm here. That's why we have our coffee.
Yeah.
I guess it hasn't quite kicked in just yet.
I don't know what you guys are talking about coffee. Too cool for that.
So if you're new to the show, which most of you guys have been fairly regular, you'll know that we simulcast on multiple platforms. We simulcast on Hitbox, YouTube Gaming, Twitch TV, Shoutcast, and VinnyMacRadio.com. Remember that Hitbox is the official partner for VinnyMac's 9 Radio Show podcast. So if you want to join in on the chat, head over there. We'll be there. We don't really expect too much interaction because, again, this is a podcast. But if you feel like doing so, you can do that. You can also send us email at the one and only at VinnyMac.org. You can tweet at me at DJ Vince VinnyMac. And of course, you can text us at our awesome telephone hotline at 314-32-VINNY. That's 314-328-4669. Remember that message and long distance rates do apply based upon your carrier and your locale. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that phone number so much.
Yeah.
And also you can send us snail mail if you want to send us anything really, whether it be promotional material or art, or just anything. You
like
can,
a new car.
Yeah, a new car. Although I'm not sure how that'll work.
I mean, they can just drive it to the address, can't they?
Just drive
I guess. But anyway, you can send us mail at VinnyMac's 9 Radio Show, care of VinnyMac Productions, P.O. Box 3359, Chester, Virginia 23831. Very exciting stuff.
I'm still interested. A car. Just leave.
You just drive it to the address and then you just walk home and you're just like, well, all right. Or you have someone go with you so that way, like, they're driving another car and then you can just drive back.
That's 100. Just leave the keys under the mat or something. Just,
yeah.
I mean,
it's the trust principle. You just trust that no one's going to take the car.
This podcast just began, and it's so interesting the turn that it took. And I gotta tell you, I was talking to somebody not too long ago about the dynamics of a podcast and things to do and things not to do. And I explained to this individual, because this show is really about anything goes. And it's true. I mean, I could have never guessed that this is how things would have turned within the first couple of minutes. So this particular podcast is all about Yoshi Blade here. I had the opportunity to spend a little over a week at his place, and he spent a few days over at my place in Virginia, and we had quite a good time kind of taking a look behind the scenes of some of the technicals as far as his process and also my process.
Technicals. I like that. Coffee, pop, occasionally a few energy drinks. I like the technicals.
Yeah, and of course for me, taking a look at some newer modern software as far as digital audio workstations go, because most of you guys out there know that I'm very old school when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And I mean, when I first started out, we didn't have software, and if you actually had the money to buy some of this stuff crashed all the time to the point where it wasn't even worth buying it.
I can't talk about that because I don't know. Because again, old school myself. I learned on an actual. I don't know if this is, some people would find this, but an instrument. Well, I mean, I don't know, because I always get asked questions about for those who don't know, a MIDI keyboard, or actually a MIDI controller for that matter, doesn't actually make any sound itself. Theoretically, anything could be like a MIDI controller.
Yeah.
But people, does it make music? And I have to explain. Well, no, not in of itself. And it gets interesting from there. But yeah, I can't account for that. I'm relatively new actually to the whole DAW scene.
That's okay. And you know what? One of the things that I'm definitely impressed with is just the fact that at least, even though your process may seem easy to you, and I'm just taking it for what it is. I'm seeing a lot of experimentation, innovation that, again, you may not feel is the case, but I'm seeing a lot of techniques that you use that other people would be really afraid to use just because. What?
I mean, fear. I mean, what is it going to jump up and attack you? I mean, it's
no, but I mean, a lot of people, including yourself, are a little self-conscious as far as how people are going to perceive, a particular sample used or, what have you. And I mean, trust me, I know that you in particular are definitely like that. But I mean, that's just the nature of being a musician. You're always concerned about how are people going to receive,
right?
And how are they going to actually look at it and say, oh, this is really cool, or I don't really think that this really works here.
Well, I mean, I think really the heart of it, I don't know. I can't really speak because again, I'm still very, 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 very new. Relatively speaking, but you just kind of got to put yourself just naked out there and hope people like what they see. I mean, really, you can't control what people you can't force art on people. You just have to put it out there and let people choose.
That's right, Yoshi Blade. I keep telling you that.
That specific sentence.
that specific sentence, because I mean, you're new. I guess you've technically been at least doing this for 2 years or so now. As far as what other people may have heard as far as stuff that you've put out there, it's really new. But because I mean, we already know that you were published on OCR back in early December.
Yeah, let's not mince words. That is really like that is really where I cut my teeth. That is really like I guess you could say like my cradle.
And I mean, like for me in particular, people are always like, we hear that you're so awesome and you're all over the community, and that's absolutely true. And they're like, well, why haven't you put out anything? Well, if you know anything about me, you'll know that a lot of the work that I do, and people really cringe when I say this, is for the commercial space.
I really cringed.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, you guys may not have, but when I tell people that, especially in video game music, they're like, ugh. And I'm just like, well, I'm sorry, but that's just how I started because this stuff was not around when I did it, and that's just the nature of my beast, and that's just the way it is. But I mean, going back to spending my time with you at your place and you spending time at my place, it was definitely a pleasure and an interesting time. Watching your process, showing you some of my processes, and learning from each other as far as how you do things and how I do things.
I like that word process because for anybody who's just listening, it's just a word, but really, I mean, it's a way of life. I mean, process. I mean, what is it? I mean, something as somebody who tries to mine other musicians for every bit of sort of like the trick in the trade of what they do. I mean, do they get up every morning and eat a bowl of Wheaties? Do they all do that? And you got to find the things that unify them. If that makes sense, you got to find the things that link them together. So if everybody in the morning gets up like this, if every good remixer got up at 6 a.m., maybe there's something about getting up at 6 a.m.
Not me. Yeah. I usually go into bed around this hour.
That's true.
See, I can't do that. I don't know how you guys go to bed at 6 a.m.
I don't know how we do it either. I think it's just a total lack of humanity. I really do.
So, what was your favorite part, would you say, if you had to choose a particular favorite part, as far as the time that you and I hung out and just kind of got to know each other and also, got to work with each other? And
the favorite part probably would be just the, I'd say the general moments in between leaving either your place or my place, coming back, and just the work I was getting done, 5, 10, 30 minutes here, then go out and do something. Come back, 40 minutes working, come back. Just this sort of dynamic range just felt amazing.
Now, I know that you had mentioned to me that you were really happy that I was there because I was able to, take you away from things, get you outside for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether it be for food or, hanging out with friends or going to 16-bit.
That's true. It's not just that. It's like nothing in this world is worse than flat pop, And, well, I mean, it is because it's just acid and sugar. And part of what makes it good is the fizzle, the pop, the shake up, the that's it. And, when you're working, hours a day, not doing anything, you're flat pop. I mean, you got to get some dynamic. Do something.
That's why, usually I work out during the middle of the day, not just for physical health, but more for mental health. And I'm sure you can relate because most of the stuff 100%. I do is kind of in my apartment or indoors or somewhere like that. But I often try to get out of my apartment, and working out is the perfect excuse where it's I need to go to a gym so I can get out of my apartment, shake things up, and be okay, now I'm not stir crazy and I'm not getting quote cabin fever or apartment fever.
This is brilliant because this is a question I've had with working out and art. Here's what I found for me. I don't know about anybody else. I need to run. I'm a runner. I love running.
Same.
I love it. It's the high. But I have found that if I run, I feel better generally. If I run, let's say, I could run every day. It's such a great thing. You see the rushing scenery coming at you, the smells, the sound. Oh, by the way, run outside. Treadmills are nice if you're going to do anything, but if you're going to run outside.
Yeah.
Well, Yoshi Blade already knows that I run quite a bit to the point. Yes. Well, and of course, I usually do it in the middle of the night because that's really the only time that I actually have any time to do it. And I know that, especially with the winter months, you've been really concerned that I'll be hit by a car, even though I'm way off the road because we've got sidewalks and I'm in the park and all that, and we have running trails, and everything is lit pretty well. So, and I've been doing it for well over 3 years. Not to say that nothing would ever happen, but I play it pretty safe. My neighborhood's relatively safe. The cops patrol all the time. So frankly, again, not to say I shouldn't be cognizant, because trust me, I am. I'm always very aware of my surroundings, especially at night.
Well, the question is, though, are the other people aware of their surroundings? Because, something...
Sure. But, that's the important thing as far as ensuring that I am cognizant, because, if a car is coming at me, I'm going to see that.
Yeah.
And, again, not to sit here and say that, I'm invincible and that nothing would ever happen to me from a negative standpoint, but I do very good to ensure that those things don't happen.
That's all you can do.
And that's all you can do. And it's all about mitigating risk and getting that risk as close to zero as possible. We all know that getting risk to zero is impossible. Say what you want. Trust me, if it were possible, organizations would not be shelling out billions of dollars every year on security.
Well, remember the joke, if there were no risk, the crutch businesses would go out and all that goodness?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean...
So, do you know what my favorite part about the 2 weeks or so that you and I hung out, aside from the fact I got sick from coming back from Raleigh?
Oh, you got sick coming back?
I always seem to get sick coming back from Raleigh for some reason.
Hey, all I know is Raleigh has a. By the way, if the apocalypse ever happens, there is a Target that's in an underground bunker in a.
Are you kidding me?
Yes,
There's an underground Target in Raleigh.
I have.
Actually, I guess you haven't been there.
I have photos. I have photos to prove it.
Well, we also have video of us trying to get.
Yes, and by the way, it's got a cart escalator. These things exist. These things exist. These things exist. I tell you, I don't lie.
What?
Yeah, go over to the Game Chumps YouTube channel. We actually have a video of Yoshi Blade and
make smart
and
decisions.
MC Percolator trying to force each other to get into the cart to go up into the cart escalator.
Shoot, I would do it.
So if you ever need some slacks and there's a nuclear war, go to that Target.
But yeah, of course, what happened that particular Monday night into Tuesday was it just got insanely cold really quick. And even though I was bundled up like I typically would be, for some reason, whenever we have extreme temperature changes like that, especially when there's a lot of moisture in the air, I just get really sick. And it subsided, so it was cool. But nonetheless, I got sick, and I was off for those few days, so no harm done. But anyway, my favorite part about hanging out with you wasn't just, of course, sharing the technicals, techniques, seeing the processes behind the ways that you and I do things, but it was more or less the fact that I did not have to throw you in my hole in my kitchen.
That's true.
There's always an inside joke with everybody in the Game Chumps crew, and with Yoshi Blade here, the running joke here is the fact that you hear all the time that when you meet people on the internet, you got to be concerned that you'll get murdered or raped, molested, what have you. And of course, I'll let you tell the quick version of this.
Well, the quick version is again meeting somebody. I started talking to Vincent VinnyMac here on Instagram. Actually, if you're interested, you can follow me at YoshiBlade on Instagram. But I started talking to him over Instagram, and I was aware of his presence. I was aware of he was in the community, and we just started talking. I had never actually met him face to face. And for all I know, he could have been a computer. He could have been well, it's like one of those Russian, those dating things, like where it's
true.
Automated response. But the point is, never met him before. And so he says, hey, maybe you want to come down here or I come up there. And I said, oh, well, why don't you come up here? So, if I am murdered, at least I'm murdered at home. And, I'll say I lived a good life and all that goodness,
Well, actually, that part's not true because you and I had talked for probably... I don't know, almost a month, and literally what happened was, hey everybody, I'm Stuart Griffin, and I'm going to be kicking my dad's ass all day long. Pretty much, I was getting to the point where I was about ready to kick his ass, not like physically, but like mentally. And I told him, and I said, you know what, I just might have to come up there. And I guess like 2 weeks, maybe a week or two later, I had an insane amount of time to burn. And so I was like, this would be a perfect opportunity to do a 8-9 hour road trip to
another human skin suit for old VinnyMac.
Yeah, there you go. And of course, you had time as well. You had some work here and there outside of your content creation, but nonetheless, we made good use of that time. I spent a ton of money on software for my own content creation, and I'm very excited about what's to come. And I know we're a little ways into the podcast so far, but the pre-show, in case you haven't already figured it out, is basically some of my insanely basic MIDI compositions that I've done for some of my work in progress tracks that will be coming to fruition here very soon once I get some more time. And as I told you, YoshiBlade, that's kind of one of the biggest problems with me and anything that I do from a music standpoint is time, because I've got a insanely busy professional career that of course is the most important thing to me, because that is what is allowing me to do what I do inside the community for video games and video game music. And if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be able to do it. So of course it's very important that I continue it as such. And also one of the things that I certainly would like to mention is that about a year ago I went to my boss and literally told him that, there's this thing that I, really, really need to do. And that's essentially work with the video game and video game music community. And basically, if there wasn't a way that they could accommodate that, that literally I'd have to take a couple of other opportunities that were and still are available to me today. And basically, my boss said to me, he said, we would really hate to have to lose you over trying to pursue something like that, because you've already proven yourself very well and that you can do what you need to do really without anybody's help or question, and you can do it anywhere really. So we don't really have a problem with it. It was just more or less getting the paperwork and the approval from the various organizations that I have to work with, because there's a lot of security involved with that. So, and all that got processed insanely quickly. And of course, that gives me a lot of flexibility to travel and of course work with people like YoshiBlade and others. And I'm definitely very excited and very humble about that, because it is something that I've done for a long time, but I'm kind of behind the scenes really without making it public to anybody. So I've literally done this for almost 2 decades. But it wasn't until last year where I kind of made it more apparent that I was doing it and that there was this thing going on behind the scenes. Not just me sending people to MagFest or to other related events, but that there is this learning process that's going on behind the scenes with other musicians and people just starting out. But it's also a learning opportunity for me, because there's so many different ways to create music and to create ideas and then to put them into a music form, that it's just so fascinating to me that every time I see a different way that stuff's created is just amazing. And again, I'm very humbled by it, and it's just so cool.
Well, that's your break point, man. That's the point at which you take something and say, how far are you going to take this? You can hang out by the well and keep drinking water, or fill your canteen and, cut out there, see what's out there.
Exactly. And it's all about your responsibilities and your priorities.
Priorities
is the big term with me. Because again, day job, that's pretty much priority one. Aside from my house and everything in it. Everything else,
you got to have a house to remix in.
Exactly.
What are you talking about? I do all my stuff homeless. About you guys.
Set it up on.
We're just out in the middle of a sidewalk. I actually don't have an apartment, guys.
Yeah, get a milk crate.
Yeah. So real quick, we of course have a couple of events going on. We have PAX South that we're down here for, and we're going to be making our way to San Antonio very soon. Probably literally right after this podcast. It's going to be crazy. And of course, we have good old MagFest 2016 in National Harbor. You can of course catch the entire Game Chumps crew and everybody in it, including Tenwug, Yoshi Blade, DJ Vince, VinnyMac, myself, Rossi, and MC Percolator by going to VinnyMacRadio.com and clicking on the podcast link. You can also substitute any of our aliases, whether it be Tenwug or Yoshi Blade, .gamechumps.tv, which will redirect you to their primary social media presence. So like Yoshi Blade, if you go to yoshiblade.gamechumps.tv, it'll redirect you to his awesome Instagram page. And you'll see all of his cool pictures. And
you don't want to hear what I have to say every 5 minutes. That would be pretty boring. Look at my pictures, my music.
And as well, if you do see us, whether it be at PAX South coming up, or if you see us at MagFest or whatever, feel free to come and just talk to us. We're all pretty chill folks, and we're not going to try to be like, oh, don't come approach me. We're not those people. Come talk to us. Talk to us about whatever.
Yeah, and most of you guys out there know I'm sending Beat Drop and his fiance to MagFest in addition to Yoshi Blade here. I'm also coordinating some stuff with DJ Cupanata and some of his guys coming down from Canada. We're anticipating doing 2 podcasts for MagFest, so it's going to be a wicked crazy time.
That word I used last time, but patron saint of video game remixers. It fits so well. It just fits so well.
Oh yeah, for those of you guys who don't know, that's kind of the set of terms or phrase that Yoshi Blade uses to describe me and all the stuff that I do for the folks out there.
Yeah, I think that kind of fits.
Patron saint of video game remixers.
Yeah, I think it fits.
And like I said, I'm very humbled to do it. Even though I'm the one shelling out all the resources, time, money, technology, techniques, what have you. But again, even for me, it's a learning experience, and it's just crazy. So one of the things that you and I had talked about was that MagFest for people like us is it's our mecca, if you will, our pilgrimage that is very important. If there's any event of the year, it's going to be MagFest Prime, and of course, this year it's happening in mid-February, and as we've already discussed, I'm not excited about that just because of midwinter, and we've already had fun winter weather in Virginia the last few days, and
summer. Really, we're inside.
No, well, no. When yeah, you're inside, but people have to get to that place.
That's true.
No, that's true. When it was in early to mid-January, that was perfect timing because the snow and all the winter weather, typically in Virginia and National Harbor, isn't there yet. So, there's still plenty of time to ride out what's left of fall, even though it's January.
Yeah, see, that's always odd to me is the fact that sometimes February can be balls cold compared to January. If you'll forgive my terminology, that's the technical term. Yeah, balls cold.
Meteorological term, actually.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm really big on is the fact that a lot of the things that I provide for people is to ensure those that I think have a lot of talent, like Yoshi Blade. I say that and he just kind of looks at me funny, like what? But anyway, it's to essentially provide things for people like Yoshi Blade and others. With the things that I probably needed when I was that age or trying to do whatever it is that they're trying to do, and either just didn't have it or couldn't afford it or it just wasn't there. Because in my case, a lot of that stuff just didn't exist and you had to build it yourself, and it just really sucked. And one of the other things that you and I definitely talked about Yoshi Blade is the fact that the goal or the dream is free, but the hustle to get there is not, whether that be monetary or, spending a lot of time getting there. But that's a very important phrase to me, and of course to those that I work with, so that they understand that, hey, dreaming, there really is no cost in having that dream, but actually getting there, that could be your life's work. I mean, that could take a lifetime.
I agree.
True.
And even for me, the last couple of years have been very interesting, because even though I'm shifting from more of a rock and roll, popular culture kind of genre into video game music, people like Yoshi Blade, they're like, well, video game music can incorporate all those things, and that's true. But also at the same time, even though I definitely enjoy those things, I'm still trying to shift a little bit away from some of those original genres that I spent a lot of time working with, just because there are other things like more classical things or orchestral type music that I'd really like to get into. And of course, this is a good way to segue into those particular things. One of the most important events that's coming up here tomorrow is, of course, my 30th birthday. Woo! And it's a very exciting time. It's the end of my 20s, as if it were.
I mean, you can put it like that. I mean, what's age but a number? And your number was 20, and now it's 30.
Well, that's funny, because that's exactly what I told you. And earlier, when we had talked about this, you were, I guess, kind of making it a big deal about, again, how I'm making this genre shift. I've done all this cool stuff in my 20s, and now, going into my 30s, I'm now doing some really new and even to me some bizarre things, but it's still a lot of fun, and it's going to be a crazy next 10 years, and I'm very excited to see what comes of that. So what would be a podcast about a new remixer, musician and composer, if we didn't feature a ton of work in progress tracks from this particular individual?
So that makes no sense. Why would you feature someone's works in progress?
I know that would suck.
Yeah, no, sarcasm, folks.
Yeah, exactly. So we have 3 tracks we're going to play here, and the first one is, of course, your first Overclock remix, Post.
Yeah, I mean, again, I love this track. I worked really diligently at it. I'm not sure if I worked hard at it, but I worked diligently at it. And it's like, I mean, if you like, I just break it down. If you like Castlevania 64, which gets an undue amount of hate, there are parts of it that are good. And one of the parts for me was the Castle Center soundtrack.
Now, was it this track, or was it the Tubes track that you had opened up 2 audio files and found a kind of serendipity, if you will? Because you had found a sound that just worked.
It was the Super Mario and Castlevania one that just I accidentally opened it up. But sonically, the Castlevania one's pretty simple. I mean, it's mostly just sort of a humming vocal pad, and that's about it. And the fact that just the amazing thing is that I opened it and it just happened to already work is the kind of strange one. I don't know if I should view that as like a positive quality of me, that literally the music writes itself and I'm just kind of standing there by the side.
Well, the reason why I think that's important to note is because I actually did that when I was working with you, with one of my primary tracks that I'm working on for Furry Cubed. And I know that you had heard it, whether or not you remember it, that's kind of another thing, but I do remember playing around with it a little bit and saying, these actually work really well, even though, at least in my case, different from your case, they're from the same game.
And that's serendipity, because something, you remember the one time it did work, and then the 20 times that not only did it not work, but it like made your eardrums bleed. So
yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So did you want to say anything about the other 2 tracks, or you just want the people to hear it?
Well, that's the first one is the Super Mario, my very first OCR post. I was really surprised about that one. The second one Pokemon. Although I heard I've got some feedback on this one that it was strange. It's well, I'll tell you what. I'll let you try and discern what it is and tell you when we get back. And then third one, it's everybody knows the underground theme. Mario.
Yeah, and again, one of the things I really definitely like about you is the fact that you're using some samples that, although initially when you first hear it, you're just kind of like, huh? And then you hear it again and you're like, oh, that's cool. Or at least that's the way I feel anyway.
Yeah.
I hope it makes people feel all sorts of ways.
Which is why, especially when you submit something to OCR or really to anybody that has any kind of value to it, where you're going to be up against a variety of judges who are going to be listening to your work. I found that from my professional career that it's very important that you basically lay out why you use certain samples, especially if you know that those samples are going to be weird or unusual to some people.
Well, just embrace the weird. I mean, explain it to a degree.
Well, see, you can probably. I mean, like from my perspective, I embrace weird all the time. You know that, but at the same time, for people,
you've embraced me. So
this is true.
So you embrace weird.
This is true. But I mean, the bottom line is that other people are kind of set in their ways sometimes. So as a result, like I said, it's just very important, especially with this one here, with the final one here. There you use some things there that I think are good to have there, but I already know that based on what I've seen, that some people don't understand why you're using some of those samples, and they kind of want you to remove them. But at the same time, from my perspective, if you laid out why you use those samples, I think they'd go, okay, well, that makes sense, and we're fine with it because
okay. I mean, at the end of the day, I always love that trope. La la la. Just enjoy it. I mean, if it's ear gratingly bad, then don't press replay. If it's sonically great and it's awesome, press the replay.
Sure, but again, we're talking more specifically those that are judging your work as opposed to a general audience.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's one thing if you release a track and 10,000 people listening to it and they're like, okay, and they have their opinion, but it's very different if you have 5, 20 people listen to it, and they're going to be the end all, deciding factor as far as whether or not that wins a competition or gets posted somewhere.
Sure.
Because again, you got to shell out to them why the track exists the way that it does, and that's up to you and your write-up. I mean, we've already talked before that when it comes time for my first OCR post, and so many people are very surprised that I haven't submitted anything yet, and there's obvious reasons behind that. Just haven't had time to really put anything together to do that. The write-up's going to be pretty huge. And I mean, some people out there in my work, they're literally like, you're practically putting out a dissertation for something. And I'm like, yeah, there's a reason behind that, because you guys need to understand why it exists like that.
Make sure it starts with, it was a dark and stormy night.
Oh, good.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and take a listen to your Yoshi Blade's first ever Clacker Mix post from December. What was it? December 5th, I think it was.
I
think it was December 5th.
It was approved a while ago back, but I never sent them the WAV file, and I got on that quite quickly.
Well, and that's another thing, when somebody asks you for something, especially for something like that, try to take care of that right away so it doesn't get delayed. So yeah, we're going to listen to that, and we're going to listen to 2 additional work in progress tracks. And don't worry, there's plenty more where that came from, because as the show progresses today, we're going to hear some even better work in progress tracks that I'm definitely very excited about, and I hope you are too. So thanks for sticking around, and we'll be back after this.
counting at 10 and going down.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the VinnyMac's 9 Radio Show Podcast, episode 1304, the most radioactive show on the planet. I'm joined back here in the mobile studio here in Arlington, Texas, with Dan Yoshi-Blade Lesor. What is up, dude?
You can't see that, but I'm giving the two-fingered, off-the-forehead kind of hello salute.
Cool.
Thank you for adding that, Dan.
That is cool stuff.
So
we just listened to your first ever Clacker Mix track.
True.
And of course, 2 work-in-progress tracks. And I got to say, what's really cool about music, as I'm sure most of you know, but it's always good to kind of remind our listeners out there. You know, after hearing those, I'm definitely entertained and a bit more energetic.
You know, I hope so. The first one, my actual OCR post, I'm not sure how energetic that one will make you. It might make you a little depressed or scared.
Well, the good thing is that it's kind of supposed to make you do that.
I mean, the reality of the first one is, you know, the castle theme of Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario World, I don't know, something about it just depressed me. I remember the first time I played it with my grandma, there's just something about the music depressed me, and seeing these little floating baby Yoshi ghosts, I mean, it just made me kind of depressed. I mean, it really did. I mean, what was the deal with those little things? I mean, that bugged the heck out of me, man. It's like, no, it did. And then there was this one particular scene where it just goes, dun, 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 na, 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 na. I mean, something about that just depressed the hell out of me. And I'm like, what is this? This is Mario. But, yeah. And, of course, Castlevania 64, again, gets more hate than it deserves. You know, I'm actually gonna play that game today. I want to.
For what little time we have left in the day. So, you know, if any of you guys are ever interested in music composition, do your research. Listen to OCR. Listen to other video game remixes that you might find out there. And
before I get too far away,
well, hold on, and you know, contact those who may be doing similar things that you want to do, because you know, we all want to help each other.
It's true. There's truth in that. The most important thing actually is to write, to just, you know, you might say, oh, well, it doesn't sound good. Well, okay, just keep doing and it will sound better. You will get better. You can't retroactively make your art better, but you can make yourself better.
And I mean, like I said, we all want to help each other, some more than others. You know, if there's somebody that you think composes or remixes music to the style that you like, reach out to them. The worst they're going to tell you is no. And I mean, heck, if you don't try, as I keep telling Yoshi Blade here, because that's kind of an important step for you. You know, if you don't try you're never going to get anywhere. And again, the worst that's going to happen is they're going to say no, and you just move on, and you'll figure it out from there. I mean,
that's true. That's true. Before we go further, one of the middle track I left is a bit of a mystery. If you hadn't figured it out, that one was really, even by my standards, I'd have to say I took some liberties with that one. But it's the drum roll, no, Vermilion theme from Pokemon. Specifically Pokemon Red and Blue. Believe it or not, the Fire Red and Leaf Green versions had a really different version of Vermilion. I don't know if I liked it, but yep. So points if you figured that one out. Go ahead and write me and I'll mail you your points.
Woohoo!
Yes, so.
Yep, and
often not valid in all 50 states.
Yeah, and actually in a little over a week, just slightly over a week, I'll be in Phoenix, Arizona, kind of doing my own version of collaboration. Not sure how much I'm going to get out of it, but nonetheless, I'm going to be down in Phoenix working with some people. I'm going to be there for a couple of other reasons as well, but nonetheless, I'm going to make use of the time that I'm going to have down there and, do some stuff. And I'm going to hopefully, quote unquote, have some stuff to share at MagFest. We'll see. Again, time, priorities. That's really what it depends upon at this point.
But you got to have his priorities.
You got to have his priorities. And speaking of, hopefully there'll be a track soon in regards to that, which
hopefully
you were playing around with when I was at your place, which I thought was cool.
Hopefully. But again, what you got to have is priorities, and that's actually a pretty high priority.
Yeah, and again, that's one of my big words that you'll hear me tell you about if you ever work one-on-one with me, and Yoshi Blade's still learning. But then again, this whole thing called life is a whole learning process. And speaking of, as I told everyone earlier in the podcast, I'm really impressed with your experimentation and what I consider to be innovation. Again, you can call it whatever you want, but nonetheless, I see it as that. And you had told me a brief story about your, what I'm just going to say is adventure. You can call it what you want.
I like this.
Adventure in learning guitar, a while back.
Oh boy. Which one?
Well, the one particularly with your guitar teacher and what he had told you as far as the things to do when it comes to your music.
Well, most people start an instrument and they do it from an outside pressure. They do it because the parents want them to, school wants them to, something. And other people do it, to whatever, look cool or to do what they want. And for me, when I picked up the guitar, I said I want to be able to, play like those, make music. So obviously I found a guitar, and then I said, wow, I have no idea how to use this. So I found a guitar teacher. And, going in, he kind of basically laid it out. What it is, how you want to learn. Do you want to be able to perform for other people and just say, hey, look, I have the ability to learn guitar, or do you want to actually make music? And I obviously wanted to make music, so he took the route of teaching me how to actually look at the guitar and see it as an instrument and not just something to play Smoke on the Water with. Basically he insisted that be original. Learn the scales, learn how they fit together, avoid learning. Songs are a good way to practice, but make something personal.
So not only make sure that it's new,
yeah,
but also that it's you.
That it's you.
Those are the two important characteristics.
That's true.
It's very true.
These are what we could classify as truths.
Definitely. All right. So next up we have 3 more tracks. One of them, I guess you could technically consider it work in progress, but it was submitted to a contest.
Oh yes,
that you and King Tiger worked on.
Remixing with the Stars. That's right.
Now, I guess the question I have as far as that one, and that's going to be the final one in this particular set, called "Hang In There." It's another one of my favorites from you. Who did the bulk of the mastering process for that?
Oh, It was if you're not familiar with the OCR, then you're probably not going to be familiar with Remixing with the Stars. But it is a sort of a subsection, a sort of sub contest of Overclocked Remix, and basically it's where a posted remixer helps out an unposted musician to make a video game remix. The idea is it's implied that the unposted remixer, not the star, will do the bulk of the work. But to answer your question, who did? I think he set me off in the right direction. He was constantly there, listening and saying maybe bring up the high end a little bit, maybe. And I think that was like the one track where I realized that, there's more to music than actually playing an instrument. And
sure.
And I know that sounds kind of strange, but really there is the minor artistic tweaks that need to take place. But yeah, I think it was a team effort, really.
Well, the reason why I had asked was because I'm definitely a little bit more familiar than you probably think as far as some of that. Because, obviously I've known King Tiger for a while. Do you know that?
I do.
And I've helped him quite a bit.
Truly.
He's asked me about things that he should do as far as the mastering process. And I remember a couple tracks he had a few months ago. I literally told him exactly what he needed to do, and he was like, wow, that fixed all the problems that I had.
Nice.
And made this exactly what I wanted it to be. But, he was just telling me about some of the things that, he had told you, just so that, when I was working with you, I didn't overlap in those things, so you wouldn't be like, yeah, I know, I've been told that 1,000 times. And of course, the way that he kind of explained it is, I guess kind of exactly how you mentioned it, in that it was a team effort, but he was more or less trying to steer you in the right direction so that you would understand how to actually master a track properly.
Truly, he is king of the Tigers.
King of the Tigers.
Truly.
Speaking of King of the Tigers, this has nothing to do with tigers or Kings of Tigers.
Speaking of Kings of Tigers, but this has nothing to do with Kings of Tigers.
But in my notes, I just wanted to remind everybody that OCRemixRadio.com is a thing, OC Remix Radio Live. And that's something that's been around since the end of 2004. We did take a brief interim at the end of 2015, primarily because I had a very close engineer friend who helped me with that whole thing who died. And unfortunately, I had to massively move all kinds of stuff across the world because of that, because he would no longer be able to assist with that endeavor since he's not with us anymore. So as a result, I had to move stuff all across the globe and shut the service down temporarily so that I could move everything without, of course, creating chaos. Because OC Remix Radio Live, there's a ton of stuff behind it. It keeps growing because the amount of simultaneous listeners keeps growing. And of course, that's nothing but a good thing. So OCRemixRadio.com, broadcast overclock remix tracks 24 hours a day. And sometimes we do special events, and sometimes I behind the scenes am DJing and mixing.
It's true.
Without anybody really even knowing.
Thousands of tracks. How many tracks are there?
There's well over 3,000 tracks in the general library, and I think if I remember correctly, if you include all the tracks from the from albums and what have you, I want to say there's close to 5,000 maybe.
Wow. Man.
Because I remember when I had to do the latest import, which included your track. I think that was the number that we were nearing. Now, of course, the general library does include some tracks that are on albums, so there are some quote duplicates, but nonetheless, it keeps growing. And of course, as more and more people get interested in this type of thing, and we're seeing just a dynamic mindset from people, we're gonna definitely see more and more. And again, very excited to see where this goes. So continuing, leading on to our next three tracks, you had told me that you did a Chrono Trigger Protodome remix, and it tells a story. What's the story behind that one?
Well, that's true. I wrote a short. I can't even say a short story. Just a small snippet of a story. For those who haven't played Chrono Trigger, first play Chrono Trigger, and then basically I think it was the I always confuse the domes. Was it the Ares Dome? it's just a remix of the future, one of the future tracks from Chrono Trigger, and it's got a small story to it. I don't have it in front of me, but basically, scientist goes to one of the domes in the future, looking for the key to human survival in the future of Chrono Trigger. For those who aren't familiar, it's a bleak future, a scary one with bad special effects and partial nudity.
And well, remember, that's the cool thing about music, is that you can use it as a means to tell a story.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something about partial nudity.
Oh, well, I should have, but I didn't.
And bad special effects, but yeah, and so there it is. I mean, it's a bleak, cold future.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add to the second track?
Anything else? I mean, hey man, it's Zelda, it's Ocarina of Time, it's probably one of my. I mean, I know it's become cliche to say like Zelda Ocarina of Time is the best in every respect, but I mean, it really is. It really is. I just love them.
Now I do want to point out that we are being a little vague with some of these tracks, since they are work in progress, because some of them don't have official titles.
Most of them don't.
So I mean, as a result, do bear in mind that again, these are mostly finished, but some still have some work to do. But nonetheless, I'm very happy with where you are in them, and I'm very excited to see the final output. So again, they're your tracks. You can feel however you want, but I mean, I've heard them a ton of times. I helped you fix some problems with some of them, and I'm definitely happy with some of those changes, especially the one coming up in the next set. That like bothered me for a long time. But so we're gonna play the next set of work in progress tracks from Yoshi Blade, and in the meantime, you can head over to ocremixradio.com, check out all the cool stuff there. The point behind OC Remix Radio Live, and people are missing the point time and time again. I mean, a lot of people get it, but some do not, because they seem to think that there should be this, it should be like Rainwave, where you can vote. Well, okay, if we wanted that to be the case, then I would create a site like Rainwave and get it over with. But the bottom line is that there's not supposed to be a bias, because from time and time again, I've listened to OC Remix Radio Live myself and stumbled upon tracks that have been around for a while, and in some cases not. And I'm like, wow, I've never heard that before, or I don't remember hearing that. So the primary point is to remove any and all bias, to basically give attention to all the artists out there and the work that they put out there. Because I mean, again, I'm still to this day. I've been around since OCR has been around, regardless of my actual presence and its visibility to others. But the bottom line is that I've been around since OCR, and I'm still to this day finding tracks I've never heard or don't recall hearing, and still surprising myself. And again, that's the bottom line: removing the bias and
nice.
Trying to showcase the musicians for what they've done.
Nice. Well put. Good.
We're gonna play these tracks. Stay cool, and we'll be back after this. All right, everyone, welcome back to the VinnyMac's 9 Radio Show podcast, the most radioactive show on the planet, coming to you live from Arlington, Texas. We're in the middle of episode 1304, and of course, we're simulcasting on Hitbox, YouTube, Gaming, Twitch TV, Shoutcast, and VinnyMacRadio.com. So,
yeah, wow, that was pretty good. That was Olympic style talking right there.
Yeah,
that was. Did you hear that breath, everyone? That was amazing.
I heard it, and of course, I was the one doing it. So, we just heard 3 of your work in progress tracks, and of course, the one that you and King Tiger did, which again, I really like that.
I just realized I assumed too much that everybody knew what games those were from. The Chrono Trigger, okay, Ocarina of Time, come on, but I can't believe it. I didn't even say one of my more favorited games, Pilot Wings for the N64.
Woohoo!
I just realized something. You ever notice how Pilot Wings is like the one that they use to test the waters of a console?
Yeah, that's true.
So it came out for the Super Nintendo, and it was like, wow, Mode 7 graphics, awesome. And then it came out for the Nintendo 64, and it's like, yeah, this is pretty good, not as memorable as the other one. And then they came out with one for the 3DS, and, well, that one didn't do that great. But, hey, Pilot Wings.
Well, hey, That's what this show's all about.
I agree.
Being weird, innovative, cool, hot, sexy, appealing to the popular culture. That's what we are all about here.
True. You know, wow. I just never really thought about that. Pilot wings. Hooray! Yay!
Hooray. I swear, I have so many notes for this particular episode.
This is good.
Now that I'm breaking the fourth wall.
Breaking.
Which, on this show, that's a fairly typical thing to do. So actually, I have in my notes here because we talked about a lot of these topics before. That one of your favorite parts about the time between me and you hanging out in your hometown and my hometown, and of course in Raleigh, was really just hanging out and of course the food. Because again, that got you away from composition, from remixing, from just sitting down and just trying to hammer something out.
Provided nourishment for my body.
Provided nourishment.
Yeah.
But I mean, the bottom line is that you need to get away sometimes, even just for a little bit, so that you can not only experience the world but also let your mind drift a little bit. Because I mean, hey,
I should buy a trampoline.
That'll give you some ideas.
Was that good? Was that letting my mind drift?
Sure.
I'm serious. I want a trampoline now. Why did I think of a trampoline?
I don't know, but I mean, that's one of the things that you told me was that you really were productive, at least when I was there, because again,
shake up the bottle.
Because I was literally like, hey, you're like, well, I really need to do this, and I'm like, well, yeah, sure, but you need food, and you need time to unwind a little bit.
It's easy when you're remixing. You'll kind of feed yourself this gruel, this sort of that keeps you alive, I suppose. But at the same time, it may feed your body, but is it also feeding your mind? I don't know. I mean, that's for you to decide. But I mean,
it is, but at the same time, you need food. That's the bottom line.
What feeds the mind? Like the mind. Like not the brain, because that's obviously like sugars and carbohydrates, proteins, fats. I'm talking this is an interesting point. Like being away from it, going and not being in front of a computer. Maybe that's what maybe like human interaction feeds your mind.
Well, I mean, I've told you time and time again, and this has been mentioned on previous podcasts. I'm probably and everybody disagrees with this statement except for maybe like 3 or 4 people, but I am probably I consider myself to be one of the most introverted people out there. And I swear, anytime I work with people, even though it's 100 times harder for me than it would be for somebody else, or at least for a typical extrovert, literally, I've had to overcome a lot of stuff in order to get to that point. And even like right now, it's even still hard for me to do it. But at the same time, I know that there's a lot of good that comes from it, because there's a lot of people that benefit from it. I mean, even just working one-on-one with you is difficult, but at the same time, no, I mean, it is. Because again, to most people, they're like, well, you seem really nonchalant. You seem really calm and really outgoing and what have you, and that's true. Not gonna lie there, but at the same time, in order to actually be seen that way, there's a lot of stuff I personally overcome just to do what I do. That's
true. I don't pity the people it comes hard for. I pity the people it comes easy for, because that's how you learn to be better is adversity.
And you can say what you want, but at the same time, I know that there's a lot you have to overcome as well in that regards. And I mean, it's an uphill climb, in the sense that there's a lot that you have to work through. There's a lot I have to work through. Again, to be the people who we are, especially when we have to interact with other people, primarily because as introverts, we typically work better, at least for the most part, by ourselves.
This is true. I think maybe it's also like just the nature of. I mean, if we were in a band, like keep in mind that remixing.
And I should also point out that, people like you and I work really well together, not just because of the fact that we share similar interests, but because once we get to know each other, we're definitely more comfortable with working with each other.
True.
because of the nature of how we are and how we work.
Might also be the fact that we're like the only people up at 4:00 in the morning. Still.
Well, this is true because when I was at your place, I mean, granted, there were times where I like just had to crash at 2 or 3 just because. I drive crazier schedules than most people because, again, there's a professional career involved in that. But at the same time, you and I, were doing remixing and I was doing some MIDI composition, close upwards even to 7:30 in the morning.
That's true. This is.
And speaking of, as I said, one of the exciting parts from my perspective of working with you, especially the very end of 2015. And I got to say, 2015 ended really awesomely because, I know that you're not really big on celebrating the new year, and I understand that.
I mean, not terribly so.
I'm just saying, there's no like big party or anything like that. It's just, but at the same time, I was like, oh yeah, hey, it's 2016. Happy New Year. And you were like so entranced in what you were doing that you didn't even realize that I had said that because I think like an hour or two later, you're like, hey, it's the new year. We missed it. And I'm like, no, you did because I wished you Happy New Year, but you were, I guess, so entranced you didn't even hear. But anyway, where I wanted to go with this was that, again, my favorite part was just really observing and seeing your process. In doing so, for me, it was an interesting experience because I've worked with some older versions of some of the software that you use. Mm-hmm. And of course, some of the older versions of FL Studio. And they've certainly changed quite a bit. Because again, when I first started using them, when they were very early on in their presence to the community, they just crashed all the time. And they were also incredibly expensive. You think they're expensive today? No, they were insanely expensive back then. And I mean, I used them, but again, if they're constantly crashing and not doing what you want, and I mean doing what you want in the sense of, you do something and all of a sudden you just lost all your work because the thing is so unstable that it, just doesn't work. But, products like that are definitely very intimidating, not just because of the fact that they are expensive, but they're intimidating because there's a lot to them, because there's a lot you can do with them. And I know that for me, that's definitely been an issue with me, just in the sense that, again, there's this time factor involved, and I have chunks of time every once in a while that I can spend working on this, but you really, really need a good chunk of time quite frequently, at least initially, to learn a good portion of this stuff. And of course, as you and I already talked about, this has been the case with a lot of these products for a long time. There's a lot of add-ons you can buy, rack extensions, plugins, what have you. And of course, that's definitely a deterrent as well, because if you want to make really cool stuff, you got to determine first off if the stuff that you're buying that comes with the product, is that going to work and give you the sound that you want? Or if you're going to need to actually buy something in addition to the product to make it do what you want or to make it sound like you want. Because you and I, we were actually talking about this just a bit ago, about how there was something that you're probably going to buy just because you think it's worth it to buy it.
Well, again, work with what you have. Start at bedrock. I mean, you're not going to build the roof of a house and then say, let's build the frame.
Oh, no, sure. Trust me. It's just that for those starting out, I don't want them to be under the impression, because there are those who are going to be under the impression that, like, once they buy, like if they were to buy Reason today, that it's going to come with everything that they need. No, it may come with a good portion of what they need, at least to get going and to learn the tool.
Well, I mean, I like that statement, and I here's what I would say. It's not going to give you everything you need, but then again, if I gave you every single thing out there, it wouldn't be everything you need. What you need is what you can bring to the table. If you have a pair of spoons, and you use those spoons effectively to make music, you're going to make awesome music. The reality is you were talking about earlier versions of this being very unstable, very expensive, and I think this is one of the greater revolutions that's taking place, is the accessibility. People like me who in the past wouldn't have ever had access to this. Maybe I could buy a guitar, maybe I could even find some recording software, but it would be very, very sort of basic, not very very conducive to making quality music. And that's what it is. It's very open. I mean, now we have programs which you can try. You can use them for as long as you like, and you can trial them, and they're awesome. And I would advise everybody to look into them. Cubase, FL Studio.
Cubase.
Let's go in the order. Let's go with Reason, FL Studio. Cubase is in there somewhere. Ableton. Whatever you want to do. I mean, just Sonar. Bitwig. Bitwig is one that everybody seems to be using. I'm interested to see what happens with that.
Well,
but
anybody who's anybody knows that for a very long time I've used Reason and FL. Now, of course, it is true that I haven't touched it in a while. And again, a lot has changed since then. And I definitely see a lot of those changes because I'm like, whoa, there's been a lot of stuff, a lot of power that's been added to these things. And of course, I took part in the holiday bundle that both Reason and FL Studio they were doing, and you did as well, at least for FL. Because of course you have the older version of Reason, and that does fine for what you're doing.
I'll tell you. I'll share a quick story. That one of the versions, somebody I worked with, who actually one of the tracks is on here. I don't think it's coming up, but his name was Gario. I can never pronounce his name, but he was working off of Reason 5. Now, Reason 5 is from like, oh boy, what was it? 2000 and
it was a long time ago.
It was
a
long. No,
also bear in mind that FL Studio you automatically get upgrades for life, whereas Reason, once you buy a version, you're pretty much stuck on that version. So if they come out with a new version, you pretty much have to buy that all over again.
This is true. So Reason, you find a lot of people who are using older versions, but the point is he was using a much older version, and he was still making quality material to this day. He is making quality material. He was helping me out. It was amazing, and that kind of echoes back to about just it'll never have everything you need. Wow, oh boy, it'll never have everything you need, but it's just you got to work with it.
Definitely,
you just got to. I mean, that's the one thing.
And to be honest with you, I think where a lot of people fail, especially right at the very beginning, is the fact that they go, "Wow, this seems a little complicated," and I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. Well, again, that's why it's very important that you try to find somebody who might be doing similar work, or somebody who you think might be willing to offer some basic tutorial help, or even just go to YouTube and find some videos that might help you show you the way. And because that's how a lot of people are learning these days, are just basic tutorial videos on YouTube. But like for me, that's really hard because I'm more of a learn by doing.
Especially with Reason, it might be harder with FL. I don't know. Just fiddle with the knobs, people. That's it. Fiddle with every knob you can find, and you're gonna mostly find that most do nothing. And then beyond that, they make it sound worse. But after that, you'll find that a tweak of a knob will actually make it sound better.
Sure,
have fun.
Not only that, but it can dramatically change the track, not necessarily for the good or the bad, but give you a different perspective as far as how just turning a knob just a little bit could change the sound, and you're like, whoa.
Absolutely, just fiddle with those knobs. And seek help out. Seek out help, and ye shall find it.
And that's definitely very important. Like with a lot of the work that I do, because when you and I were talking on Instagram, as I've brought up the phrase "Hi, I'm Stewie Griffin, and I'm going to be kicking my dad's ass all day long," I use that phrase because, at least with Yoshi Blade, because when I was getting a little irritated with him on Instagram. As far as some of the stuff he was doing musically, not like as far as output or stuff like that. I'm just like, dude, you need to chill a little bit, ease up, stop being so paranoid. I'm not, you're obviously new to remixing. I'm not trying to say you're not, and I'm not going to sit here and say you're as great as somebody who's been around for 20 or 30 years, but I definitely see the potential, and I see a lot of awesome things in you. And, you do the right stuff, you're going to do very well. And honestly, I see a lot of similarities in you that I see with some people who have been around that long. And, I'm definitely, as I've said before, excited to see where that goes. But anyway, I'm not about violence. You already know that. And of course, I've had to shove that shove that down your.
I've had to beat it into your head. I'm not about violence.
Yeah. I mean that's true, and I mean even to this day, I'm still telling you that because, I guess it's just the nature of where you've come, and of course, we're trying to help get you to.
I don't know. Maybe something about remixing is inherently nonviolent. I don't know, man. Video game remixing is inherently nonviolent. Maybe, and I think it has to be. I think it's just. I don't know if you can be angry and play video games at other people. Actually, that's a total lie. You can be angry at other people. Yeah, talking. Sometimes we need to think.
Yeah,
sometimes
And again, that's why going out even for food or hanging out or like I said, going to 16-bit like we did. Those are definitely good things to help clear your mind and of course give you a different mindset or a different perspective as far as what's out there. Because even me just going to 16-bit, that gave me an insane amount of ideas. Just observing. And it definitely teaches myself and I know it teaches others, even though they may not realize it, exactly that. It teaches them things that they didn't even realize.
This is true. And
to help them personally with their own things, not just with remixing, but also with their personal lives. And I see it, whether or not others see it, maybe not, but that's a very important factor to keep in mind.
And also in the sort of small scale or short term, I found an arcade game I really like. I loved that old. You had to pry me away from that Empire Strikes Back old Atari. The sort of the vector graphics. Oh man, it was amazing. I have to play it again. I have to play it again.
Until the place closes and we have to get the hell out of
there. Well, good luck, guys.
Yeah, and remember that everything you do has a risk associated with it. That risk may be low, it may be high, but everything you do is definitely going to ask something of yourself. Like you and I talked about earlier. Skateboarding, especially when you're first starting out, you're probably going to get bruises. You're probably going to fall down. You're probably going to get hurt, but that's part of the learning process. And in today's society, I really, really think, based on my own personal observations of others, that people forget that your mistakes is, of course, what makes you grow. And unfortunately, instant success doesn't exist. And in fact, there was a statement that I read not too recently, that literally said, "Instant success is achieved in 10 years."
Well, that's like the thought process of like is it still 10,000 hours in order to master something? I know that number was thrown around a lot. Basically, you have to work at something for 10,000 hours in order to be proficient at it. I don't
Absolutely.
know how accurate that is. I suppose if you work at 10,000 hours, something you're going to be slightly better off than you were when you started. That's for certain. But yeah, would you really want instant success? Go for consistent success,
And that's the misconception people get when I work with them. So when I work with people like Yoshi Blade, MC Percolator, Rossi, Tenwug, even though you guys are working on very different aspects of whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether it be content creation, remixing, music composition, writing, what have you, I always have to ask myself various questions because you guys come from various walks of life. One of your favorite series of words.
Walks of life.
And I have to ask, where do you want to go? How can I help? And is it something that I can actually help with? And especially, is it something that if I can help you with, can I learn from it too? And of course, just in general, how I can offer my expertise to whatever it is that you're trying to do. Let's face it, I'm human. I don't know everything, but much like we've talked about in this podcast, I do my research. That's how you get smart. Smarts is just relative to the task at hand, really. To be honest with you.
How can I don't know. I think you gotta help. You gotta help yourself, and by helping yourself, you can help others.
Sure.
It sounds a little like philosophical there, but that's the truth of it.
And at least for me, I always try to do the best that I can, and that's probably why to a lot of people it always seems like I have the best or that I'm doing very well. regardless of how it may seem under the hood, just because of that fact. I save a ton of money just by doing research, by, participating in rewards programs. People freak out all the time when I show them photos. Like, for example, just like at the gas pump, you were telling me, you're like, that's basically stealing. And I'm like, no, it's part of a rewards program where if you use it effectively, you can, get fuel for next to nothing.
It's basically stealing.
And that's
you're a thief.
I know, it's terrible.
You're a dirty thief.
It is terrible. So, I mean, in the last podcast, we talked about my process in working with the community, and that the big deal is that, you as an individual, not just myself, because I'm already doing this all the time, but, you as an individual must learn and grow from it. And I think you do very well at that. I have to metaphorically punch you in the face sometimes, but at the same time, I guess in the end you get it. And the one of the tracks that's next up in the next set, that's one of your work in progress tracks. I definitely had to do that because you kept saying, well, even though that the fix that I was saying that you should apply to it was very simple, you kind of went way beyond that to the point where I listened to it and I'm like, well, I see what you're trying to do here, but that's a little too extravagant for really what I feel needed to be done to fix the problem at hand. Because I had listened to it literally almost 100 times. That is not even a joke. And literally, when I got close to the end, I was literally like, there is literally a section that appears to be missing. And even though it needs to be something that should probably be repeated from the last section, just to, symmetrically make the track complete, that's literally all that was needed to be done, at least from my perspective. Because when you finally applied the fix after all the crap you did, I was like, my life is now complete.
Well, thank you for describing my work as crap, VinnyMac.
Yeah, you're very welcome, my friend.
No, he's actually accurate. What could be described as the version before was almost break this word down, an incomplete song. There's songs that sound just bad. There's songs that sound not mixed properly, and then there are songs that are literally incomplete.
And to be honest with you, the ending was fine. Literally, I just said that you literally just needed to repeat the previous section, and that would fix the problem. It really wasn't an issue with length or anything like that. It just literally, you got to the end and you're like, okay. It's literally, to me, it seemed like there was just something missing. And once you finally did that, after nagging you for quite a bit, I listened to it and I'm like, that's it.
I think if we use the word literally one more time, we might have to just tear it out of the dictionary.
Hey, when it comes down to it,
I literally couldn't believe it.
Exactly.
No, it's true, because it really was an incomplete song. I mean, as song structures go, and I'm not sure how they go, but it really just it was the 3 parts. And that's not how it's supposed to be. There's supposed to be some sort of revisitation, and there was none of that. And for those of you who are wondering, it is the remix of "Boy Meets Girl" from none other than Earthbound.
Yes, it is.
We lost a good man in 2015, Satoru Iwata.
We did.
He really was instrumental in Earthbound, and I don't know why that game just resonates with me and him. I don't know.
Well, when we lost him, and that was definitely a blow to the gaming industry as a whole. And in fact, when I went out for my nightly run, that was actually the first night that I saw a shooting star in a long time. And of course, on social media, I dedicated that to him, nonchalantly.
Taking credit for astronomical events.
Yes, but not that I really believe in that, but the thing that I think is kind of important to me anyway, is that the next time I saw a shooting star, which actually I saw like 7 or 8, because it was during the meteor shower, was when I started talking to you, which was ironically during one of my usual nightly runs.
Nice.
So I, even though I don't really believe in that type of stuff, I think that's kind of cool and interesting.
You just have to believe that it's cool, and it is cool. I just not to skew too much off, but shooting stars, man, they make you double think that if you actually saw it, and it's you just got to take for granted that you did see it.
Yep.
But yeah.
So I'm working with the community. people ask me all the time, hey, you should look at my project or listen to my track, and hey, you should give me cash. And of course, especially if you ask for cash right up front, that's pretty much a no.
Hey, you should give me cash. Hey, you should give me cash.
Or lean in the direction of, hey, you should fund my project. Because, I mean, I've had people who go, well, you must be into metal because you look like the type of guy who's into metal, and that's not true. I mean, I listen to metal, but that's not like my end-all genre.
Hey, you look like a guy who's in metal. Give me cash.
I've actually had people who literally are like, you should, because I think you might be interested in that, you should help fund my project. And I'm like,
You gotta be smooth. First, you gotta give a compliment. You look like you're into metal. Then you ask for the cash. People, you gotta learn this stuff.
And speaking of, this is a very important aspect. In going to events, you're gonna come across people of whom hold opportunities that they can offer you in your own career or development that you may not even know exist because you may not even know who they are. And that's the thing about this community in this particular industry is that we have people who have personalities, appearances that you wouldn't put two and two together and say, okay, well, this guy works for a big name game company or has ties to popular social media site or music platform or whatever, because I mean there are a lot of them out there, and I know a lot of them who are gonna be at MagFest, and you're gonna come across these people and you're not even gonna realize who they are, but these are some people who can hold the keys to a lot of doors where if used correctly can be used to open those doors for better opportunities. So just be very apparent that people who you meet, especially at some of these big events like MagFest and PAX and others, that you don't necessarily know who you're talking to unless you literally know who they are. And again, well, don't piss people off.
I think that's generally a good rule in life, not to piss people off. But,
it is, but I mean,
especially true at MagFest.
It is, but at the same time, sometimes you got to remind people of that, just because games in general, sometimes you can get carried away. And we can forget that this is a reality, that there are real-time consequences that
This is true.
That your actions can have. So going back to my own personality and being an introvert, I'd say a large portion, as I guess I probably have mentioned several times throughout the podcast, that many people don't realize this unless they either know me personally or have heard this in previous episodes of the podcast. But what I do outside of video games and even inside video games requires that I overcome this introvertedness and in order to progress the world of technology. And as I've said thousands of times before, it's 100 times harder for me to do it than somebody who is extroverted and naturally does this just as part of who they are. But where I'm particularly going with this is that a lot of us in video games are just naturally introverted people. And I want to just put it out there that being an introvert or being somebody who likes to work by themselves should not be a deterrent for working with others, collaborating, seeking outside help, for getting second opinions on tracks, for asking for basic guidance on how to get started in some of this, because it's something you mentally have to work with and overcome if you really want to do great things. And I know that for you, Yoshi Blade, that's definitely something I've pounded into your head several times, just because, again, I know that you, at least from the very beginning, it seemed like you were pretty adamant about working by yourself, at least initially. And of course, I think after you started realizing, hey, if I actually get out there and work with people. I mean, you were working with people before, but at the same time, you were doing it from home and not really having the opportunity to, come to PAX, for example, or to MagFest. At least in a scenario where there wasn't really too much you had to worry about. Because, I mean, you already told me the story. And I guess if you want, you can tell the people out there about your MagFest 2014 experience.
Oh, yes, indeed. Well, for those who don't know, MagFest does take place in the winter months. And my first MagFest, I recall, I basically just remembered that it was a weekend. It was the weekend. I said, maybe I should just go drive there. And I quite literally, on a whim, jumped in my car, hopped in on the freeway, and just drove to Baltimore from Ohio. And that's about a 7-hour drive. It was fiercely cold.
And you paid the insanely expensive tolls.
Oh man, that was that's where most. I did the math after I came back, and that's where most of the cost came from. The gas was a good portion, but the tolls were like $40, $50 in total. It was crazy.
And more importantly, you didn't even have a badge into MagFest.
No, I didn't have a badge. I just literally showed up and said, I hope everything goes okay. I didn't even think, what if they turn you away at the door? Literally just showed up, and I didn't have a place to stay. So for a good portion of the first night, I think I only stayed 2 days, and I slept in my car a good portion of the first night. It was frosty. It was freezing. Oh, I can still remember how cold I was in that car. But I did it, and I met some awesome people. There's really, it's not a myth, it's not a legend, it's my reality, and it was Arctic, and it was amazing. The whole of MagFest.
And I honestly, to some degree, hate hearing about the part sleeping in your car, because I know how cold it was that year.
It was bad,
and it was pretty bad.
It was a great year, but it was a bad year.
Yeah, it was, but at the same time, it also, I think, changed your life forever.
It was the best of times. They were the worst of times.
Because honestly, I think if you hadn't had made that decision, you probably wouldn't have gotten as serious as you are today about your remixing. Now, not to say you wouldn't have ever done it, but honestly, I don't think you'd be here on this podcast talking to me, the same guy you are today.
Who knows? Maybe I might be, crashed in a ditch somewhere. I might be, sitting with a lottery ticket. That doesn't matter.
And, I literally based this particular experience that you had with the analogy that the success that you have from experiences like that is going to greatly outweigh the insane amount of tension that you actually had to endure to overcome it. Because, again, I see that your experience at MagFest, there was a lot you had to endure: cost, fuel, time, breathing the cold.
That was
you and I do not like cold weather at all.
It was, and that was 2014, I believe. That was a frosty one. That was like 0 degrees. Oh boy, jeez.
Like I said, I kind of hate hearing it, but at the same time, I love hearing it because, again, honestly, I don't really believe, at least from the way I hear it and I understand it. I think that if it didn't happen this way, the push to get you motivated would have been a lot harder.
Who knows? I try not to think about the alternative histories or whatever you want to call them, but I'm here now.
Sure.
I breathe. I live. I do. What more could I say?
And speaking of, when it comes to work in progress tracks, which is something I really had to push Yoshi Blade here into letting me do, is especially when you're just starting out, it's definitely very important not to be afraid to let others listen to your tracks, especially when you're just trying to get a feel for the reception towards others, how they're gonna take it. And this is true even with myself, but even to some degree, but not completely, because again, a lot of what I do is commercialized, so there's a lot of non-disclosure that's involved with that. So, but when I can, I try to let people listen to, which is why, like on YouTube, some of the basic work in progress tracks are there, because it's there to listen to critique. There's not really much to critique because they're just basic, my own basic MIDI compositions. So, true. But they will be something eventually. But and hey, it may also lead to awesome collaborations in the future, and hey, even to the person that you're sharing the work in progress track to, can give them an appreciation for a technique or to a style that they may not be accustomed to. And that's true even with myself, because like I said, I'm hearing things that are new to the world that blow my mind
these are
literally.
These are all very, very accurate and true statements. Couldn't have been said better.
Yeah. So, on a final note, as far as this particular part, don't let your personality and, your own nature prevent you from doing things that can not only change your world, but just change the world as a whole. Because, video games and video game music is just a very dynamic world. Trust me, I've been in it for the bulk of my life. And, you could be the next person to change the dynamic for everyone else in a positive way. And, who knows? Maybe one day that could also lead to your joining up with the Game Chumps in the future. The revolution will be broadcasted.
The revolution,
yeah,
yes, will be broadcast.
And so we have 3 more work in progress tracks that we're gonna play for you. The final one is the Earthbound track that we talked about. The one that I had to work with Yoshi Blade here to get the final section to the way that it needed to be. Again, nothing really complicated or hard. I could have done it myself, but I told Yoshi Blade, I'm like, yeah, I could do it myself, but it needs to come from you.
It's true. Feedback is it really is necessary to progress. But
absolutely. Did you want to say anything about Sonic on the Beach or our second track?
We got a little Sonic adventure. Azure Blue World, also known as the Emerald Coast. A little bit of a frappe, a little bit of Mario Kart for you there in this chilly weather we're having. And of course, one of my favorite games, Earthbound, and just an awesome track. That's what cha cha cha.
Yeah. So without further delay, let's go ahead and listen to these next 3 work in progress tracks. Like I said, the final Earthbound track for this set is one of my personal favorites, and in fact, from time to time, I don't always do this, but from time to time, I ask some expert advice from some of my own people who work with me, and that's an important word, with me. They're not necessarily working for me. They're working with me, and the Earthbound track in particular caught a lot of attention from those who I asked some feedback on, because again, I wanted to make sure, at least with this one, because there was an issue with it as far as its completeness, that I got some additional feedback, and one of the things that they said was that it's just a really chill, really laid back tune that especially after you finally completed the change, they're like, this is it,
This is it.
This is it. We're gonna listen to these 3 work in progress tracks, and we'll be back after this. Welcome back, everyone, to the VinnyMac's 9 Radio Show podcast, the most radioactive show on the planet, episode 1304, coming to you live from Connor Jennings, a.k.a. Tenwug, voice actor from Arlington, Texas. I don't know if I said that. I don't know. This has been a very long podcast, but it's also been very good.
Very rewarding.
At least from my perspective. Heard a lot from Yoshi Blade so far. We're not done just yet. Still have a little bit of stuff to cover. We have 4 work in progress tracks at the very end of this segment.
Get a bit.
Yeah, and I like all of these. So make sure that if you want to follow any of us, you can head over to VinnyMacRadio.com, click on the podcast link, and you can go to GameChumps.tv for some basic information, including the live status page for the stream, which gives you the links for all the ways that you can listen to us on Hitbox, YouTube Gaming, Twitch TV, Shoutcast, and of course VinnyMacRadio.com for all those VIPs out there. So yeah, I'm definitely excited for PAX South, which we're going to be at very shortly.
We're getting prepped for.
Yeah, excited for MagFest, and if you want to find any of us, most of us will be wearing our Triforce pendant and or our guitar pendant from me,
from the man himself.
From the man himself, as if it were.
The Dwarven Smith himself. Actually, if anybody's a dwarf here, it's me.
Yeah, this is true.
This is.
So, at MagFest, we're going to have Beat Drop, his fiance, Yoshi Blade, DJ Cupanata, and some of his guys will be with us. And DJ Cupanata is going to be making some authentic poutine, which is an awesome dish, which I'm very excited to try. Going back to the end of 2015, it was very wild to see it come to an end the way that it did. I had a lot of interesting things that occurred in 2015, some planned, some not. Helped a lot of people. Helped a lot of their ideas come to fruition, some in a really cool way, some not. Definitely lost some important people along the way, both in the industry and also in our own lives. Me personally, of course, lost my good friend that, as we said, caused Overclock Remix Radio Live to have to suspend for about 3 weeks so I could rearrange the back end of the technology across the globe so that I could manage it on my own.
Around the globe. That's such a strange word. It feels strange to think that the OCR is really this all-encompassing place all around the world. It really is. I mean, it's I don't know. I know the internet's been around for quite some time, and further than that, contact between people around the world is not a new thing, but it still just feels, maybe it just feels good, not strange, just to know that someone from Sweden or Norway or France
good old Norwegian metal, Norwegian hipster. Maybe we'll see them soon.
That's a possibility.
Who knows? 2016 is definitely gonna be the year for video games and video game music, and it's shaping up very well so far. We're almost a month into 2016, and this has been crazy so far, even just for me. And Yoshi Blade's got a lot cooking.
Well, I think I always have something cooking. You just got to make sure it's not like, it's like the souffle and not the mud pie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned to me personally that based on my own personal MIDI compositions, you were pretty much like, I've got a lot percolating. It not to steal from MC Percolator, a lot percolating, and you had mentioned to a few others that I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but you just had mentioned that you expect some great things from what you've heard so far.
Well, I that's called quality. It's called just consistency. That's what I expect. I expect, consistency, and if someone's good, I expect them to be consistently good.
But do you think I'm good?
Of course not. No way. Sarcasm. Yeah, I just think it's a great thing that everybody's doing here. It's like this sort of Voltron style effort we all do to come together and create something larger than ourselves. It's just good. What more can I say?
And I'm in an environment where even though I'm doing well, I always feel like I'm not, just because I have a ton of stuff going on. And honestly, I think from a musician standpoint, we always feel like we're not doing well. Even though it's like listening to your own track and going, that's just crap. And then other people hear it and they're like, why is that crap? That sounds amazing.
Well, that's always the trick of it, isn't it? It's hard to see yourself, and and part of writing music and remixing it specifically is listening to it many times. So you can't really. It's hard to tell when you're saying, well, it's not that I like the track. It's just I'm getting less sick of it.
Very true. Very true.
So some it's hard, and some people you'll work hours and days on a song, and you'll become less sick of it, and then people will be like, it's not that great. And you're like, God,
yeah.
Geez.
And in video games and video game music, especially at MagFest, you're going to meet some of the nicest, most genuine people ever. And again, not to say that everybody's going to be this, but so still be a little cautious. But if you really want to live, do what you love, carry out your dream, again, as I've said before, the dream is free, the hustle costs money. And again, it's not necessarily money. It could be risk, it could be time, could be all of those things. It could be help from other people. But the bottom line is, don't be afraid to ask questions, ask help from fellow people in the community. I mean, I will tell you right now, I've been in the industry for a very long time. And of course, been with OCR for a very long time. And I really don't post much on OCR, primarily because my dealings with OCR is with people directly, as opposed to using the forum or using the workshop. It's, using either my own or existing platforms outside of OCR, or even just doing it in person, or on Skype or Google Hangouts or something like that, because I find that that's more effective. I mean, when I was working with you on the Earthbound track, I said I had some feedback for you, and you were like, "Oh, well, tell me about it." And I said, "Well, no, I'd rather do it through Skype because it'd be a little, I think, too tricky to do over chat." Because I mean, honestly, it's very easy to get confused and to make mistakes and to not really understand the feedback that somebody may be trying to provide just over a chat. So
these are all true statements that sometimes you need to do it in real time as well.
And also remember that there's never going to be enough time, and that's true with me. It's going to be true with everybody. That's going to be, obviously, like I keep saying, that's my biggest hurdle with music in general is time. I try to make time for it, and my schedule is now relatively flexible that I can do a lot of things that some people can't, but at the same time, I still have a job to do, and I still, have things all over the globe I've got to watch and maintain.
Which you have as priorities.
So priorities is definitely a big deal. So MagFest this past year for me was an incredible experience. Met a lot of people that I've known for a very long time, and some I'd interacted with extensively, some not. And of course, got to put the face with the name, which of course is always good to do within our community. A lot of you guys out there know that I practically have done just about every event, but for the longest time, I was definitely very sick and unable to effectively do some of these events from the front end, which is why I do a lot with technology and do a lot in the back end and support and all that stuff. But it was definitely an incredible experience to, again, meet with a lot of these people who I had worked with directly for many years, put the name and the face together, and just put a lot of stuff together from over a decade, almost 2 decades of work.
A composite is what it is. A composite.
And MagFest keeps getting bigger and better, and my hope is that the continued growth doesn't affect its end effect on other people.
Well, I mean, you just got to roll with that. That's what time has for us. We have to roll with it. If MagFest becomes a tens of 20s and 40,000 people, I mean, we got to roll with it. We got to embrace it.
Sure, but I'm just hoping that it's size doesn't stifle its uniqueness, popularity, and of course it's semi one-on-one experience, because since it's not as huge as some of these events with like 100,000 people, that there's a more one-on-one interaction, especially like in the jam space, chip space, some of these panels where you can like really get up there and ask questions and just communicate and interact with some of these people. Where an event that's incredibly huge, that could be really difficult. Like when me and Connor and Lucas were at Phoenix Comic-Con, there was an event in the big ballroom, which probably I think maybe had like 18,000 people. I want to say it was huge. And of course it involved a celebrity. So as a result, I mean, security was tight, naturally. They didn't want you taking, even people who like myself were there on behalf of the media were not allowed to take photos, not allowed to record anything. It was like, well, what the heck's the point of me even being there, being invited on behalf of the media, because you're just preventing me from doing what I'm supposed to be there for. And, they didn't really communicate this properly. So as a result, people like myself were doing that, and we were like yelled at by several people because they couldn't determine if this was allowed or not.
Well, I mean, yeah, I can see how that relates to the fear about MagFest becoming.
But I mean, you also have to bear in mind, though, that the programming, as far as I'm concerned, I thought was lackluster. And I think that its incredible size has a lot to do with that, because they also just were not utilizing the appropriate tools to properly.
I can't comment on that, but all I can say is I gotta trust perceptions, and then trust but verify. I
gotta tell you though, what a hobby we have. Some of us do it as their primary job. Some do it as just kind of like a goal or a dream that they have. Some of us do it as kind of like a secondary thing. We go to work, and then at the end of the day, this is what we do as our task for fun. And, for the last 16 years, I've been able to do what I love, working with people, helping them in video game music. And I've said it time and time again, because of what I do outside of video game music, I mean, that is what allows me to do what I do. I have an employer who's pretty much behind all this stuff, understands the need. Like I said earlier in the podcast, my employer was pretty much like, this would be a stupid reason to have you leave, as opposed to keeping you on and letting you do this, because it's very important. We need more people in the community like this, not just video games, but as a human society. Because frankly, I mean, this is the type of stuff that used to happen all the time, and that's how art and music really flourish. But over the years, it's really just about the bottom line. And so as such, art and music, especially from our form, is trying to be creative with video games and video game music. I think that's a little bit limiting in some respect, but with new platforms like Patreon and GoFundMe and things like that, that's opening the doors a little bit to help from the financial standpoint. But at the same time, you also need people. You
need people. You need people, if only for an audience to perform for.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, even for you, I think a lot of people are really surprised that for me, the gain, for me, isn't financial at all. Because I mean, most of the money that is put towards all this is a literal loss, and I don't mean loss as in there's nothing gained from it. It's just, to me, it's money that I'm not like getting back, or money that like I personally am getting any kind of quote monetary thing back. It's more the progression, the growth from the person that I'm working with, and their ability to grow as humankind as if it were. And that's very important to me, the progression of humankind, especially when it comes to music, art, content creation. And like I said, we need more people out there, because as time goes by, we're seeing less and less people who are out there in the community doing this type of work. And it's a little bit disappointing and discerning at times, because, again, in the past, this is what really drove innovation. Because, I mean, you and I at least hopefully know that research and development was a big deal. many years ago, and that's what drove a lot of the stuff that we have today. And not to say it's still not occurring, but the amount of it is very disappointing, because I mean that's how we got a lot of this cool stuff. And if you're not doing the R&D, the research and development, well, and just looking at the bottom line to say, well, how can I make a quick buck? Well, you're not really going to get too far, I think, unless you have people working in the background doing some of this stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth in there. The only thing I could say is just consider it an investment in yourself. When you do things for yourself and for others, and betterment, really.
So, and I mean, obviously I learn a lot from all this stuff, and I personally grow from it myself. But, like when I hear tracks from Yoshi Blade, for example, good example, some of them I'm just like, wow. And, again, you've told me time and time again that you don't think that your process is really that complicated or intricate, but at the same time, it's still like, wow, that is an awesome sound. And to me, that's important. I look at people like Flexstyle, King Tiger, Beat Drop, many others out there, and actually, I know you don't agree with this, but I actually compare some of the tracks that you've done to some of their work, because one of the things I talked about in our the album pre-release party I did for Flexstyle last February. One of the things I talked about was there's a very dynamic range that's applied to the soundscape. Now, whether that's because you're using, a compressor or using expansion techniques to make it sound like that, cool. But you're really widening the soundscape so that it just sounds really incredible.
Well, thank you. I try and take a look at the whole track, and just it's more painstaking that way. But you get the whole track. If the whole thing is sounding good, that's what I generally go for, and try not to nitpick on the smaller details. But that's the only thing I could say is make it all sound good, generally good.
I try to go by that rule of thumb, but I know that especially if I'm experimenting, at least initially, that's not going to be the case.
True.
So, but yeah, if you guys haven't already figured it out, this is something that's very dear to me, and I definitely like to continue to do it, and it's just an exciting life that I lead.
That it is. It's
both positive and negative. Trust me, not everything is all cool, because I've been burned before. Again, I'm human. We all have to be cautious and do our own research. And sometimes you can find that sometimes that research isn't accurate or doesn't tell the 100% of the story.
The whole story. Yeah. I mean, what more can be said? I mean, it's
a lot more can be said, but we're not gonna beat around the bush that much. But going into the final 4 work in progress tracks, definitely pleased with the outcome of all these and where some of these are headed, because I know that the work in progress tracks, let's face it, they're not 100% done, and I know you have some ideas for where you want to go with some of these, and they're all good ideas. I have no qualms about them.
Well,
did you want to say anything about these in particular?
Yeah, specifically, credit where credit is due. For those who aren't familiar with Majora's Mask, I wouldn't totally blame you. I mean, it's a little more of an obscure Zelda, but it's been called the black sheep of the Zelda family, which I don't know if I totally agree with that. But it certainly does take a different tone. That track, which is the remix of the Icona, or the Stone Tower, was worked on by me and Gario, fellow Reason user, fellow Capello head. Credit where credit's due, and then of course the first track you're gonna hear is Caustic Vapors. I just like that term, and it's one of my favorite tracks. It's Chemical Plant Zone, and yeah, I just and it's it's very caustic. Ha ha. And then of course we have a remix from Skies of Arcadia, great game, Dreamcast. We Hardly Knew Ye, and I'll see if you can guess what the last one's from, but you might have heard of it. Ha 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 ha.
Well, that's definitely another one of my favorite ones, and you know, again, I definitely like the dynamics of that track, especially the frequency range of that particular track.
Yeah.
I definitely like it a lot, and I might even argue that that I like it about equally as much as the Earthbound track that you and I spent a lot of time on.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. I'm happy now, if you can't tell in my voice.
Yeah. So, we're going to listen to these 4 work in progress tracks. And when we come back, we're going to hopefully end this thing and get right on to PAX South because we have a ton of stuff to do and we're very excited about it. So, we'll be right back. All right, everyone, welcome back to the one and only VinnyMac's 9 radio show podcast, episode 1304, the most radioactive show on the planet. I'm joined here with Yoshi Blade, Remixer Dude.
Remixer Dude, that's the best way I've been ever introduced. Remixer Dude, I like that.
Remember, here on the show, we're all about weird, being hot, sexy, being with popular culture, you know.
Pop culture to save time if you're into those sort of parlances.
So, and I think Yoshi Blade fits the bill on that. So make sure that if you'd like to find out everything we covered in the show, to check the show notes at VinnyMacRadio.com. You can also check the archive at Mixcloud and YouTube for the archived copy of this particular podcast. People keep asking me, when are you going to put it on iTunes? And I'm just like, well, if you keep asking me, I'm just never gonna do it. That's actually that's not true. There is a plan for that, but I can't do it just yet. So, not just yet. But at the same time, bear in mind that the podcast, most people catch it live, so there is usually very little reason that most people would want to catch it later. Not to say that nobody does, but most people are catching it via VinnyMacRadio.com and Shoutcast. Those are the two primary ways that people come in, aside from our official partnership with Hitbox, which is, of course, why we use it as our primary chat platform to the public. So, yeah. I mean, and if the only thing I could add to that is a selfless and shameless plug for my Instagram. If you like what you're hearing, why not give a follow? Send me a message. Let me know. I put up work in progresses all the time. Go right ahead. Just send me Yoshi Blade, all one word. And I hang around Instagram quite frequently. What a strange one I chose to settle on. Like most people go with Facebook or Twitter. Why did I go with Instagram? I don't know. But then again, you're not on Facebook. You're not on Twitter. You're not on.
Yeah, don't look for me on there because you won't find me yet. See.
We got to be careful though, because now people know you're not on there, so they might try to register that.
That's a good point. You
should probably get on that.
You should probably get on that ASAP.
I just love in my notes here that your nickname that you have for me.
Oh yes, of course, the patron saint of video game remixer.
Yeah.
It's either that or Hannibal Lecter. Which one was
Hannibal Lecter? Well, I haven't officially thrown you down the hole in my kitchen yet, since I don't have a basement, and I can't lower the lotion, all that crap.
Yes, but truly, no, he really is. Vinny Mac, he really is the patron saint of video game remixers. I mean, think of what a patron saint is and does, and that's about what Vinny Mac is and does.
Yep, but despite all that, remember that it is your own 2 feet that takes you to greatness. Not just the help that you receive. That's definitely a big part. But if you don't have the will or the actual desire to take yourself to the next level, then you're never going to get there. And I'm not going to entertain that thought. If you're not willing to do it yourself. Again, the help is there, but I'm not going to do it for you. Much like a lot of things that you and I have done over the last few weeks, I keep telling you, I'm not going to do it for you, or this needs to be done, but I'm not going to do it for you, even though I could, just because it needs to be you that does it, even if it's something simple, mundane. Because again, I'm not your parents. I'm not. I'm not directly related to you, and nor should anybody who is. Should they be expected to do that? You're an adult, and you're doing pretty good, all things considered. And again, this is the human race. It's all about growth and learning and doing what you love if you can, and just amazing. So at any of these events, would it be PAX, MadFest, any events I may be doing in the coming months, meet with us. The Game Chumps exist because we are an IRL and in real life video game group community that loves being around people who share similar passions. I mean, that's why me and Yoshi Blade are here today. That wasn't a mistake, I don't think. And in fact, the primary reason why he is here today, regardless of what he or anyone thinks, is primarily because he felt the need to thank me, even though he had nothing to do with it, for my work, and of course sending Flexstyle to MagFest last year, and of course sending Beat Drop to MagFest this coming year, just in next 2 weeks. And I had paid attention to Yoshi Blade for a little while, despite the fact he hadn't been posted on OCR yet. And again, because I've been sick, I forgot where I had heard some of his stuff before. Outside of OCR, I was trying to remember where I had seen him before, like on social media, because I know he wasn't on Facebook or Twitter. And then I remembered, I think I remember seeing him on Instagram somewhere. And of course, that's a couple weeks after that. That's where, I felt the need to actually reach out to him. And, well, first off, thank him for thanking me, and also getting to know him a little better just from an online perspective. And then, of course, things went on from there to learn that not only is he about the same age as me, but, our interests are very similar to the point where we can hang out, and it's cool.
That's like chapter 1 of my, not autobiography, chapter 1 of VinnyMac's autobiography of Dan. That doesn't even make sense. What am I even saying? I'm a madman right now.
So you and I have already talked, but I'm going to be very busy at MagFest. Not so much at PAX South, but even though I may seem like I'm not really busy, usually inside, or usually if I'm like really, really hammering at the phone, usually it's because I'm, talking with 5 different sets of people to ensure that things happen when they're supposed to. But either way, I only say that just because I am a busy guy, but that shouldn't really be an excuse to, to say hey, or to, again, grab a bite to eat. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's all there is to it. It's just going to be a lot of fun. I mean, drops the mic, but we'll be dropping no mics here.
And the most important thing that I think that at least I've taken away from this, don't know if you would say that you saw this, at least without me saying it, but people like myself, OCR, other organizations out there, they can't really do anything to help you or to work with you if you don't make yourself known. The fact that you may not be on social media, that's, although, trust me, I don't like being on some social media, but the sad reality is I have to be in order to be a public figure. And because, you also have to remember, I've been in radio broadcasting for just about 2 decades. And social media didn't exist back then. And even though it sucks that social media didn't exist, and I kind of hate it sometimes, but that was also a hindrance towards the exposure, because, again, we were a global show, and we entertained people all over the world. And, I met some pretty cool people, and that was during the day when broadband was just getting started. And, we had to build our own technologies to make all this work. Mm-hmm. And because you didn't have YouTube, you didn't have platforms like Twitch or Hitbox or any of these, content or video platforms. You either had to do it or host it yourself, which we did. We had services all over the world that I personally built. And as a result, the entire world, if they were aware of it, and that was kind of the big thing, if you were aware of it, you got to tune into some really cool stuff.
There's a lot of truths being dropped here tonight,
Exactly. And, again, much like you, if you just want to create music by yourself and maybe work with some people in the community, that's fine. But, again, what good is that going to do you if nobody knows about you? See, I'm a little different because, I'm like that to some degree because I'm quote unquote, or was rather, because, I've come out of the woodwork a bit. I was an underground artist, producer, remixer, what have you, that dealt a lot in the commercial space. Mm-hmm. So the whole primary objective of that whole thing, because a lot of what I did was popular. And of course, there was, copyright issues at the time because the music industry hadn't quite created the formula that they have today to determine how to charge for samples and stuff. That I had to be very, very careful because, I was literally in the middle of some of that stuff, and nobody likes to be in the middle of any kind of legal battle or argument, even if you're in the right and clearly in the right, because that just takes a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of just a lot of emotional toll on you. And just in my time dealing with it, I'd say it's scarred me for life. To the point where, I'd say it set me back a bit, just because it's made me a little bit fearful over the years, much like your fear of downloading MIDIs.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you don't know what I'm talking about. Downloading legitimate MIDIs, I should say.
There you go.
From a respectable site that's been around for a very long time here in the U.S. And, even though I'm a guy of technology and I actually run a lot of these back-end services, I've had to change my attitude because I know that a lot of those laws have been changed to favor the end user and disfavor the person hosting the file or the content. Not necessarily in a bad way, but basically, instead of saying, oh, we're going to sue, the 1,000 users that download this file, we're going to hold the host accountable for providing it. Or, at the very least, basically say, well, this needs to be removed and
straying into some dark, litigious territory.
So, and that's something that people like you need to understand is not, I'm not going to sit here and say you need to go download illegal content, but, when it comes to stuff like legitimate files, like what you're trying to do, I literally downloaded all of those MIDIs on my home connection.
Well, it's
actually I downloaded a good portion on your connection too. So,
oh boy, that's right.
I told you about that.
Yeah. Just it goes further than that. Just making music, make good music. I don't know how it's like. Just make us look cool. I remember.
Make us look cool.
I just remember that. Just make good music. That's all I can say is move forward and make good music and
make good music. That's what it's all about. This has been a really wild show, I gotta tell you. So we got another podcast planned for PAX. I'm not 100% sure when we're gonna do it because we've got DJ Cutman's show on Saturday night that we're planning on going to, and I've got a episode of the podcast I'm planning on doing in Phoenix, and two potentially for MagFest. There's going to be at least one, if not two. But, bottom line is get in on the action as it happens. Go to VinMacRadio.com, GameChumps.tv. Check out the show notes. You can find all the ways to follow us, including myself, Yoshi Blade here, the newest member of the Game Chumps crew, probably, again, for me anyway, somebody I can relate to a lot.
You just always be encompassing in all things you do. Always be willing to work with people. Always be willing to make yourself available to like the Game Chumps and all that good stuff.
Man, you're saying a lot of stuff I've taught you. Cool.
I know. It's just, just be all encompassing, a sort of pan remixer, and
yeah,
I'm a part of the OC Remix. I'm a part of all these places, and it just, be known and make yourself available.
Yep. So, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Hitbox, all the stuff at DJ Vince VinnyMac. You can follow Yoshi Blade at Yoshi Blade on Instagram. We also have Tim Wug, Rossi, and MC Percolator. They're all on VinnyMacRadio.com. They're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that cool stuff. Rossi, of course, isn't with us right this minute, but he will be soon for PAX. And one of the things he always ends with is that we all have a story to tell. We all have our own lives. And as such, we all have our unique experience as far as how things go. And I know that Yoshi Blade certainly understands that. And I definitely understand that. And, you people like Yoshi Blade, the people out there, are definitely the reason why the video game and video game music community do what we do. And I guess on closing remark, you might be very timid at first. I got to tell you, I'm probably one of the most timid people you'll ever meet, at least at first, anyway. But we don't really know your capabilities, and same goes for yourself. You probably don't even know your capabilities until you take the first step to get in with the community, see what we're all about. Because, really, to be honest with you, this community to me over the last 15, 20 years has been more of a direct family than my own family. Not that I don't love my family, but my family, and I'm sure much like yourself, they don't have the common interest of video games and video game music.
It's true.
Not that there isn't a loose connection, but, bottom line is that, I can relate more to you than to my oldest brother, or even older brother for that matter, just because that's not what any of them really care about.
Well, that's why we have friends, because
exactly.
they fill in where family, where the genetic relationships sort of cease, and they fill in that sort of that human need for connection. So
yeah. So on behalf of everybody here at the Game Chumps crew, including our newest member Yoshi Blade, again, definitely one of my my personal favorite additions. He's just so cool. I know he doesn't see it, but that's cool. Myself, DJ Vince, VinnyMac, Yoshi Blade, Rossi, Tim Wug, MC Percolator, everybody at VinnyMac Interactive Entertainment, Overclock Remix, and of course Overclock Remix Radio Live, the fine folks over at Game Chops, and of course the most important person, you, the listener out there, for listening to this podcast and any previous episode, because you are what makes the show what we do. What we do. Because remember, this show was founded on the principle of providing a show for you, by you, and I'm just the host that puts it all together. So, this show also would not be possible without the fine folks as part of the sub-organization within VinnyMac Productions, the VinnyMac Productions Monitoring and Control Center in Huntsville, Alabama, for monitoring the stream for tonight's show, making sure all the technicals are in place, because this show is very, very complicated from a technical perspective to maintain, since we simulcast on 5 platforms. So definitely thank all of them for sticking around and making sure that everything is cool there. So, most of you guys out there know how I typically end a show. Yoshi Blade, do you remember?
Yes, I do. I remember. Be true to yourself, keep it real, and we'll see you next time.
No.
Oh boy, I blew it.
Well, you blew the last part. Anyway, I'm not going to hassle you over it because you're new, and you got most of it right. But anyway, on behalf of everybody here at the VinnyMac's 9 Radio Show podcast, episode 1304, I want to thank Tim Wug for being with us, Yoshi Blade for coming down on behalf of everybody here at VinnyMac Interactive Entertainment. So until next time, which will probably be later this weekend, stay true to yourself, keep it real, and we'll catch you next time. We're out.